Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday and welcome to the Rangers Review Morning Briefing. It is Friday, the 20th of September. I'm Derek Clark, and it brings me great joy to say I'm joined in this video by Stevie Clifford. How's it going, Stevie?
Good morning, mate. Good morning, everyone. We made it to Friday, match day tomorrow. So, yeah, there's nothing else to talk about. End the podcast. Great.
Yep, a fair few things to get stuck into, and as ever this week, it's dominated by off-field news. So I think we'll kick off with that. You will have seen big news yesterday evening. Dave King releasing a statement, an explosive statement at that, in which he's called for an EGM, and he also says that believes that Rangers require £50 million worth of external investment if they're to achieve their ambitions in the coming seasons. Now, I'll read you some of what he had to say. He also spoke about Steven Gerrard and said he was kicked out at the time. So, intriguing stuff. This is some of what he had to say. You can read all of this, folks, over on the Rangers Review website. But he says, we need to find the right CEO and construct an executive team that will take the club forward. Using a recruitment agency will be counterproductive and expensive. This decision again reinforces the disconnection of this board from reality and its inability to get recruitment right. I completely understand why some influential board members don't want me back. They know from past experience that I would not tolerate board members who are only in it for the jacket and tie and don't actually want to do any real work. If the board can, for once, set aside self-interest and put the supporters first, then I offer a challenge. Urgently call an extraordinary general meeting. And he says, as I did to get Ashley out, and put yourselves up for re-election. I will in turn put up my nominations, including myself. None of the existing board members who presently protect each other can vote, and neither will I. John Bennett and George Letham would also be excluded from voting for obvious reasons. In that way, we can leave it to supporters for once to decide who they want to run their club. So that is what he had to say on that. There's plenty more in that statement, Stevie, but is he right to ask for an EGM? Is that the right way forward, do you think?
Well, Derek, I'm not sure if Igamani's ready to start. I think Dessers should just start. And, oh, man, honestly, I don't know what to say anymore. It's becoming what we really didn't want it to become. And, you know, all done out in public, all done out in the mainstream media. And I don't know what to say anymore, because it seems whatever I say about this, Derek, I'm getting into trouble left, right, and centre from viewers and people watching and everything else. But my opinion on it,
it's split.
I mean, I think my opinion on it, Derek, is that the current running of the club by the board, I think we all agree, has led to far too many problems the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Whether it's statues, New Edmiston House, stadiums, loss of finance, money getting spent wrongly, giving the keys to the wrong people to sign players, all of that is completely acceptable, and the wrong people making wrong decisions. So I think that we can draw a line under that and say, I think we all agree on that. That doesn't mean we're anti-board, or it doesn't mean that we don't respect people that have put money in, that have invested. And then there's Dave King, who walked away from the club to return to South Africa to take care of his businesses there, demanded his loan was repaid in the middle of COVID, all this kind of stuff. There's so many questions surrounding Dave King, as well as prominent members of this board. I don't think it's as straightforward as Dave King just comes back as a Pied Piper and everything's wonderful again. He talks about Steven Gerrard being forced out the club. I'm not sure I remember it that way. I remember Steven Gerrard being interested in the Newcastle job and then taking the Aston Villa job. So I'm not sure I remember it the way that Dave King portrays it to be. Whether he means that he was left with no option because there was no money to spend that summer, then yeah, I probably would agree with that. But why demand your loan gets repaid and everything else, etc. at the same time? So there's so many questions surrounding Dave King and surrounding board members that it's so difficult, Derek, to have an opinion that's going to satisfy everyone and not, be on the front end of it. So I don't see how the EGM call is going to do anything, because he's basically asked everybody not to vote apart from the smaller shareholdings, because I believe he's doing that because he doesn't have the support. Because if he had the support of the bigger shareholdings, then I think that he would go ahead and forge on with his plan. But the fact that he doesn't maybe tells you quite a bit as well, Derek. But do you know, I'm already tired of this, and it's already been a week or two in the press, and I think it's the last thing we need at this moment in time. And perhaps instead of warring against each other, can we maybe sit down and come to a consensus of, who's doing what and who's going to invest, because Dave King said that he's not putting in any more money, but the current board have said on Rangers Review last week that there is no apathy and they will continue to support. So I'm a bit troubled about where we are and who's doing what. And surely instead of pulling all this out in public, we could just get together, sit down and park the egos, excuse the double pun there, and just get it together for the sake of the club. Because what's more important, the club or a big public, long drawn out feud to decide who's going to be chairman or whatever? I don't think it's going to be solved anytime soon, and I don't think it's helpful to anyone, really.
Yeah, just on Dave King's shareholding, he currently holds a 14% stake in RIFC PLC after he previously sold chunks of his shares to Club 1872. Between them and other board members, Taylor O'Hart and Halstead, they control around 21%. Now, other bits of that statement that he had to say, he said it is amazing that the same people who got us into this trouble want to continue control by placing as a professional chairman their own puppet who will have no knowledge of the club or financial interest in its future. We are sleepwalking Celtic towards title 55, 56 and 57 instead of trying to stop them. This board will go down as an infamy in the club's history. And he also said the complete lack of leadership of this faceless crew is most clearly demonstrated by the simple fact that not one of them was willing to show their face by stepping in as interim chair when John stepped down due to ill health. And he said, shame on them. Lurking in the shadows in a time of need is not the Rangers' way, and that is why I have again offered to assist. Just on the Gerrard thing, some interesting points of note in that as well. He said, I'll bring up this, it's just a long-winded statement, but what he had to say was, first of all, it's just extraordinary that we got to this position from 55. It really is extraordinary. I'll go to the point that it's disturbing. And on Gerrard, he said, I think from Stephen's point of view, and I can't talk for him, but I do talk to him, including very recently, let's be absolutely clear, Stephen was not ready to go when he went. Stephen wanted to defend the title and had extended his contract at his request because my arrangement with Stephen was always, I'm never going to put you in a situation where you turn me down because that would be awkward. I don't want you to ever come to me and I turn you down. What I'm telling you is, at this moment, I see your future being in the club. And if you feel you want to extend it, you approach me anytime and we'll sort it out. We had our understanding that we'd respect each other. And he came to me and said, look, I'd like to extend. We did at this request. He was happy at the club and his ambition was to defend the title and then commence us on a run. Thereafter, he felt he could then pass over and go on. And he goes on to say, Stephen was absolutely kicked out. I have no doubts about that. Stephen did not want to leave at that point in time. He would have left, but not at that point in time. It wasn't what he wanted to do. And yeah, it's a long-winded statement on Gerrard and the future of the club. I see Stevie just shaking his head there. We touched on Gerrard, of course. That ship is now sailed, Stevie. It's all about the here and now. But this is not going to go away. This the off-field noise around the club. Dave King isn't going to go away. Where do you see it all ending up?
Just a couple of things on that, Derek, before I get to that point. This is where I have questions, and it troubles me, because Dave King talks about, those people that have been in charge. He left those people in charge when he resigned and walked away. That's point one, I would ask. Second thing, last summer, Dave King was in the papers telling us that the club are in a fantastic shape. James Bisgrove was one of the most dynamic, young, forward-thinking, and he loved them, and the club was looking really well, and we were in a good shape, and the right people in charge. Now all that's happened is that Bisgrove has left and John Bennett is gone. John Bennett, who he says was doing a wonderful job, but has caused most of the problems, or has overseen on his watch the problems in the last year, that Dave King slates on the other hand and says that is bringing us towards Celtic getting 56, whatever. So a lot of the things that he's saying doesn't really make sense, and it's almost like there's a part of me that says he's playing to the gallery and using all the big words and the words that everybody wants to hear to galvanise support behind him, etc. Because look, at the end of the day, people want change. People want it to be fixed, right? And I get all that, and I understand it, and part of me agrees with it and everything else. But I'm not sure that King isn't as much in the firing line for all these things that he talks about than everybody else is. And that's what, I'm not sure that he isn't part of the reason that we are where we are. And I'm not saying he is the reason, not like I'm saying that Bennett is or the Parks are, but every one of them collectively has brought us to where we are now. And it's all right him saying and having a go at everybody else, but I'm not sure that anyone, Derek, that's running this football club is bulletproof. I just see mistakes all over the place. And
yes,
and it's tiresome for us as a support to have to be put in a position where we're all having to choose sides. And the only side that we should be able to support as a club is the football club, and say we want to put Rangers first. And that's where it is for me. And I just find it all a bit, you ask, where is it going to end? I'm not sure. It'll either end when Dave King realises there's nowhere else to go, or it'll end when Dave King gets his way and forces a hostile kind of, I wouldn't say takeover, that's the wrong word, but forces a hostile kind of reappointment of himself as chairman. And I say hostile because if it wasn't, it would already have been taken up on as soon as he came out and said, I want to do it. So it's just a bit disappointing. And it's a bit, I don't think that, it's one of those ones where Dave King is blue through and through. I get that. But so is the Parks, and so is John Bennett, and so is everybody else on the board. You know what I mean? It doesn't make anyone, above criticism or scrutiny, or it doesn't make, just because Dave King's blue through and through, it doesn't make him any less why we are here where we are now. It's a collective thing, Derek. Like, all of this boardroom has brought us to the point of where we are now.
Yeah.
And it also, Dave King say, it's great that we were in such a good place when I left, but him leaving has had a domino effect on everything. So this isn't a blame thing for me. And this is where people get on my back and they say, you're very anti-King, you're very pro-Pat. I'm not pro anyone. I'm pro Rangers Football Club. And this boardroom and every single one of them on it has got questions to answer about how we are where we are. And every single one of them needs to get together and fix it. It's not about egos. It's not about who's in charge. It's not about anything. Get together and make the best decisions for the football club.
I think some of the points are valid from Dave King that he makes. Maybe I'm not too sure about the way he's gone about it there, but it's true. I think a lot of supporters are concerned that Celtic are going to rack up the titles. It doesn't help when you have a sort of failing team on the park. As long as you have a winning team on the park, then it helps with regards to supporter mood and what have you. But I think he's right. From 55, it is extraordinary how far Rangers have fallen away after the Seville season. It's quite incredible, really. Celtic have got their house in order, and Rangers need to get theirs in order pronto. A few points coming in off the back of that. Denzel says, it's washing our dirty linen in public. I've seen this before at Rangers. It really goes well. Is 50 million enough to redress the imbalance in Scottish football? We look dysfunctional. Just on that 50 million point, Macca with a point. King and Souness seem to agree it needs 50 million to fix the club. Should we read into anything into that, Derek? And Michael Gray with a point says 50 million to do what exactly? We continuously spend money poorly, and FFP means we can't just splurge on players. I know Souness came out with that, I think, a couple of weeks ago or a week and a half ago, I think, saying Rangers need £50 million. Interesting that Dave King also saying that. It's all right plucking a figure out the air, Stevie. Rangers just simply haven't spent money properly as well as they should have in recent years. It's not just about bringing in 50 million and then all the problems are solved as such. But Souness is touched on, I think, on the show yesterday with Chris. He says that there's not enough football people on the board, which I think is a valid point. Do Rangers need 50 million?
We spoke about this under Souness, didn't we? And again, this goes back to what I said about, buzzwords and saying the right things to grab the attention of people, because people immediately think, oh, we'll get 50 million to spend on players. It's not quite that simple, and I don't think that financial fair play and all that would allow that anyway, Derek. So, and where's this £50 million coming from? Is it buying
external investment?
Well, is it buying his shares then? Is it buying other people's shares? Like, are we going to dilute the shareholding again, which means that, where does that leave us? And there's a lot of questions. I don't think it's as easy as just going, here's 50 million.
Yeah.
Because the squad was so broken, and we all spoke about it, that Philippe Clement's basically had to start from scratch. This isn't a 1, 2, 3 window. This is going to be a long-term thing. And we've actually got in a position now where the squad isn't great. It's not anywhere near ready. It's maybe not even 50% where we want it to be. But we have a group of core youngsters that are there that he needs to then go and build on. You throw 50 million at that, I'm not sure it solves everything. It will make us better if they can, buy players and stuff like that. But is he talking about 50 million as a kind of infrastructure? Like, would we use that 50 million to build on the stadium, to increase the capacity, to close the gap there? That's really where we need to do it.
Yeah, we need the detail. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, what does he mean by that? And I think just putting the 50 million out there, people will think simplistically, 50 million on players. I don't think that's what really needs to happen at this football club, Derek. I think what really needs to happen is you need to build the stadium, first of all, get that capacity up, because then that gives us more season ticket holders, it gives us more annual revenue, and it cuts that gap. Because we're already starting minus 10,000 seats from our biggest rivals and the team that's currently running away with it, as Dave puts it. So we need to stop that straight away and bridge that gap. So is the 50 million going into that? And what else is it going to improve and stuff like that? I don't think it's as simple as just keep chucking money at the football team and hoping. You need to build, you need to do other things. So, and where's that money coming from? Where's these investors? Because a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about the Americans possibly buying in, Dave King didn't know anything about it, and he said there was no interest. And all of a sudden there is interest. And this is what I mean about pulling supporters this way and that way. So it's just more, every time somebody speaks, and I'm not just talking about Dave King, I'm talking about anyone, it leads to more questions from our support. What's happening? What does this mean? What does that mean? So it's just going to run and run, I think.
Yep, I agree. I don't think we've heard we haven't heard the end of this, that's for sure. Who knows how it's going to play out. But yeah, an explosive statement from Dave King last night. As I touched on earlier, folks, you can go and check it out over on the Rangers Review website. It'll be interesting to see what the response is going to be. Let's move on. Martin raises a point. Could Dave King play up front? Don't worry about up front, buddy. We've got Hamza Igaman, who's I think we're all excited about seeing more of. Whether he starts at the weekend or not, who knows? But yeah, I get your point. Another bit of news yesterday. For those of you heading out to Athens for the match against the Olympiacos on November the 7th, Rangers, the Big Marshal, the SLO, has released a statement just for fans heading out there. It reads, following discussions with the police, UEFA, FSE and various clubs, we have been informed that fans travelling to Olympiacos away will be required to use mandatory coach travel to the match as per local police regulations. This compulsory transport will operate between Athens city centre and the stadium in Piraeus, pre and post match, regardless of the location of supporters' accommodation. Further details on the coach travel will be shared with supporters in due course. Given these arrangements, we strongly advise any supporters who have booked accommodation in Piraeus to change their booking to Athens city centre where possible, based on safety advice from the authorities and other clubs who have recently visited. We will continue having dialogue with FSE and all relevant stakeholders to ensure the best possible experience for our travelling support. So that is an important message if you are considering heading out to Greece for that Europa League match. Were you considering it yourself, Stevie, heading out there?
No plans to, Derek, and certainly no plans to after. I think it's quite rough, so I think that's obviously why they're taking these things into consideration. They will have spoken to, I think, Villa. I've been out and played Olympiacos recently, and they would have went down and spoke. In fact, I do know that the club were speaking to them about kind of previous arrangements and what's best, and I think they alluded to it, or Greg did, in the kind of SLO stuff yesterday. So best advice, I think, for fans going out there is to try and stick to what the club have advised for those reasons. And I'm not looking forward to it, Derek, on a footballing point of view or a trip for the fans. I just hope it goes as well as possible.
Yep. Yeah, of course, Rangers kick off the Europa League campaign next week away to Malmo this coming Thursday, of course. It'll be interesting to see how they get on, but a few tasty trips on the horizon. Let's move on then to the game tomorrow. We'll speak to Philip Clement this afternoon, folks. As always, we'll hear from the manager around about 1:30 this afternoon. The player will be put up just after 1 o'clock as well. So we'll get an idea about who is available. No doubt he'll be quizzed on the off-field noise as well. In terms of the team tomorrow, Stevie, we expecting many changes, do you reckon, from the one that turned out and started at Tannadice?
I think probably Czerny would come back in, wouldn't he, if he was not feeling great? I think, Kieran Dowell would most likely drop out and Czerny would come in, and, I'm not sure he would change too much else. Other than that, Derek, I can't think off the top of my head. Ridvan isn't near. If he was only starting to run or potentially getting outside, he's probably still another 4 weeks away. Danilo's not fit. Matondo, nope. So I'm not really expecting huge team news. With it being a cup game, would there maybe be scope? Maybe Balogun will come in at the back or something. Maybe slightly mix it up that way. I would expect Tom Lawrence to keep his place instead of Bayrami. So I'm not sure he changes it too much. I don't think
Eagleman will... Tom Lawrence to start, do you think?
What's that?
Tom Lawrence to start, yeah.
I would think Tom Lawrence would start because of his performance last week, Derek. He did play well, given, and I know it's Dundee United. I spoke about it a wee bit this morning. Tom Lawrence's kind of challenge now is to make that a consistent performance. He had 5 really good attempts or chances last week. So from a number 10 position, that's the kind of numbers and influence you want that person to have. So I don't really see that changing. I thought Corte has done enough in his 45 minutes. He looked bright enough. Him and Yefty on the left-hand side looked decent. So I think they'll start there. Czerny comes in on the right, and then your midfield, Lawrence, Diamande and Barron picks itself. Dessers will start up front. And the only reason I say that is because Hamza Egaman isn't fit yet, Derek. So I don't see him starting the game. it would be interesting if Clement did decide to start him and give him 45 the way he did with Danilo a couple of weeks ago when Danilo played the 45 and then Dessers came on. I think that was St Johnstone in the cup in the previous round. So would he do that with EGM is an interesting kind of prospect. But he certainly was exciting last week. It gave us something to not grasp onto, but it gave us something to look forward to in the future as well. But I don't see huge changes. You might get the odd one, Balogun coming in, Liam Kelly might start. But I don't think it's a game where Clement will mess about too much with his selection. Because we need a run, don't we? We need a run of results. We need a run of continuity of kind of that form, 25, 30 minutes decent last week. Let's try and improve that and take it on. And, you know, it won't be an easy game. Dundee will come and have a go. So it's going to be an interesting game, that's for sure, Derek.
Yeah, in terms of continuity, there was a comment yesterday, I think it was, saying should Proper and Suter just continue at the heart of the defence, and I sort of, I think that might be the way to go about it. Proper just in the door, of course. I know that Leon Balogun will be itching to play, and with Malmo on the horizon, it'll be interesting to see if the manager was going to shuffle the pack with regards to the back line. Just on the left back situation in Ridvan, you touched on there, Stevie. Neil says, I think Ridvan will struggle to remove Jefte. I agree with Neil with that one. Jefte has been good. Long may that continue. But of course, he can play further up. But I'd imagine Jefte at left back, although Robbie Fraser, I've been campaigning for Robbie to get a shout for a number of weeks. Well, since Ridvan dropped out injured. It will be interesting to see as well if he will get a run out tomorrow or if Jefte will continue at left back. Scott Girvin with the point says, I want to see Raskin back in. Yep, you and me both, buddy. Don't think Diamandi's been pulling up any trees at this moment in time. I think a Baron Raskin partnership in the middle is something that I can get on board with. I would like to see Bayrami start the game. I think he's fit enough. He should know his teammates' names by now. As the manager said, he never knew his teammates' names by the time he pitched up at the training centres. So I'd be starting Bayrami. Oscar Cortez, like you, Stevie, I think he's another one that was all planned to give him 45 minutes against Dundee United. He should be able to play from the start again on Saturday evening. On the right, you'd imagine Cherney returns from illness as well. Tavernier, do you start him?
Derek, I'm already in enough trouble, right? And upset enough people with trying to talk about stuff, and now you're wanting me to talk about Tav, and then if I say, yeah, Tav, let's play Nana at right back, you know, if I don't say get Tav out, I'm just going to get lynched again, am I? So I would say there's plenty of options. You've got Sterling and Casemiro that can play it right back. I don't think Tav had a good game last week. I said that. He had a couple of really short back passes. You know, he still put in a couple of decent crosses, and I just don't think that Tav's where he should be at this moment in time. And with Europe coming up and then Hibs next weekend, could we swap that about a wee bit? Interesting. It might be something that the manager will consider, that's for sure. But as for me, Derek, I'll leave that to Philip Clement to decide and just sit on the fence purely with that, just so I don't get into any more trouble.
Yeah, a few comments as well about the goalkeeping position. I said it before, I'd like to see Liam Kelly getting a run out, but whether the manager goes down that route, who knows? But it will be interesting. We'll hear, incidentally, who is available once we speak to him a little later on. But of course, the Ibrox factor, Stevie, back to our home, of course. Scott Wilder says, let's give the lads an Ibrox draw. That is going to be huge. You can imagine if it was at Hampden, it'd have been I don't think we'd have had an attendance anywhere near like what we're going to get on Saturday evening. That's going to be big, is it not? How much are you looking forward to going back there?
Yeah, of course.
You've been back. You've been there. Of course, pretty much daily, seeing the improvements to the Copeland Road stand. It's going to be some atmosphere at the weekend, surely.
Yeah, I mean it's great to be back, isn't it? It's great to put that whole side of it out the way. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, Hibs at home, maybe that'll be completely open and we can just get back to normal and confine that to a history of a rather bleak kind of few weeks in the summer and stuff like that. So it's great to be back. The pitch looks in brilliant condition. Davy Roxburgh is our groundsman, and he's tremendous at what he does. So pitch is already looking good. I do think the changes they've made look really, on the eye, it looks really good. Obviously, there's still a wee bit to go in the concourses inside, in the rear of the Copeland. So hopefully that gets up to speed. But listen, they're doing it all for the right reason, and it does look, cosmetically on the eye, it looks quite pleasing. So hopefully for our disabled supporters, it brings them, a better match day experience, which is what we want. And let's just hope that they've got something good to watch on the pitch, Derek.
Yep, progression is all that matters, but we want to see a performance as well from Rangers. Let's hope Tannadice is something that is the start of a continuation of wins. Rangers certainly need it. Confidence needs to be built back up. And that semi-final place, hopefully Rangers can go on and retain the trophy. That match, of course, taking place 5:45 kickoff due to Premier Sports reasons, TV and all that jazz. But if you're heading along, then I'm sure it'll be great to be back. Ibrox, remember, Copeland front open, the Copeland rear still shut off at this moment in time. Right, that'll do us there. Big thanks to Stevie as ever. If you want to read Stevie's opinion piece, you want to dive in here?
Just before we go, just a wee thanks to Ross Patterson. He gave us a shout out yesterday. Derek banged into him in the street, and he was asking after us in the Rangers review here. So a wee shout out to him, and just to say thanks to everybody for their nice comments and feedback. It's not always easy when you've got such emotive stuff to write about, to talk about, and it's difficult when you're just a supporter, isn't it, Derek? So that was all I wanted to really say. A wee shout out to Ross. It's always nice when you get stopped by people and they kind of give you feedback and you can chat stuff through. So much appreciated.
Yeah, big shout out to Ross. Thanks for tuning in as ever, buddy. Right, go and read Stevie's piece. We will be back. I'll be on with Chris, who is attending the press conference for us. For those of you that are members to the Rangers Review Extra channel, will be on with our press conference reaction video. We'll have Clement and whatever player Rangers put up for the press as well a little bit later on. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Until then, enjoy your Friday, and we'll speak to you a little later on. Bye for now.